Yes, the rumors are true.
And if you think you read the title wrong, just let me say.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
But anyways, let me start from the beginning.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, and the earth was without form and void, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. Alright, it's a little bit too far back, though I will be glad to talk about that with y'all someday. If you've ever wondered what my permanent profile picture is, well, it's actually a drawing I did of a character from my comic. Well, at the time, I didn't think it was gonna be a comic. Just a little silly drawing I did of this fella, and my ex put some sunglasses on it.
His name is Austin. He was the first character made for this series, and over time I'd give him like a friend or two. But the designs would always rotate because I could never really settle on one that really captured the vibe of that old childhood friend group I'd given. That wasn't until one morning when I was bored in psychology class, probably sophomore year-ish, where I settled on the designs of the other two characters, Azan and Cameron. Something just wasn't right, however, as I felt Austin's personality was just being both too serious and too silly, was very bipolar, to say the least. It didn't really feel like a coherent character. So therefore I chose to split him up into two characters, but what design would he have? Well, unfortunately I don't have the paper anymore. I think I accidentally threw it away, but I remember finding this old design sheet from like 6th grade-ish where I was sketching out Austin's designs, and I found this one where he had a kind of curly hair, kind of like how my brother's hair was. So I chose to reuse one of his first designs ever. And just like that, the crew was made. And since I like to draw on my desks in English class, my teacher saw these designs and suggested that I write a book about these characters. And even at home, my grandpa would do the same. So naturally, I bought the entire Scott Pilgrim collection in black and white like a scrub. Little detour, but I've rewatched the Scott Pilgrim movie countless times. It's for real a top 5 movie of all time, up there with Spider-Verse and the second Spider-Verse movie. But anyways, I've always had a fascination with all things Scott Pilgrim. I have the game, I've watched the movie, and now the comics, plus the anime and the game that's also about to release. To me, there was just a certain charm to Brian Lee O'Malley's art style, something that was so deceptively simple and yet so charming. So I began to study it endlessly, doing a few Scott Pilgrim doodles here and there. You may be wondering where the heck I'm going with this, and I promise I'm getting somewhere with this. Well, remember what I was saying earlier about the art style being charming and deceptively simple for the complex storytelling, and I was thinking, what if I apply that exact same principle to the art style in my comic? See, because the setting of this comic is a deceptively simple school with a lot going on inside of it. So, there we have it. I made the first 2.5 issues of my comic and screwed off.
Wait.
So yeah, I made my comic and showed it to the English teacher who encouraged me to write it all those years back, and she encouraged me to publish it. But, how do I do that?
Well, I don't know, so I just decided to do some research. In the meantime, I decided I might as well turn these pages digital, so I went to my local library after school and digitally scanned these papers. One issue, however, this was the original paper version of one of these pages, and this was the digital version. The reason for this being is because I originally drew these pages in pencil and paper, which... This was mostly because I was scared to touch it with an ink pen because I didn't want the ink bleeding through the papers. But what this did mean is that if I wanted this book to look good, then I would have to manually redraw everything. At first this seemed easy enough, especially since I'm pretty well versed in using Flip-A-Clip. But then I forgot how dog crap Flip-A-Clip is whenever it comes to drawing things, especially on a smaller scale. So if you wonder why the first page looks the way it does, well, it's because the backgrounds were done in Flip-A-Clip. This is where I found Ibis Paint X, where I promptly spent a week in it before starting production of my comic, which still wasn't easy because my favorite Flip-A-Clip pen wasn't there. The rough pen is my king when it comes to drawing a more cartoonishly style. It's the pen that I use for every single Logic artwork that you see, and I always just felt like it added to that charm of my art. But fine, I guess I'll just use this hard mapping pen. Smooth. Redrawing the first page was most definitely the hardest part. I don't have the screenshot, but by the time I finished it, I had about 10 plus hours on that page alone. And that's not even counting the time I spent on the backgrounds and Flip-A-Clip. It also doesn't help that I practically revamped that entire page specifically because I didn't like the way that it looked on paper. But thankfully, I was able to use the state of the original digital scans to my advantage, as I would pretty much redraw the whole page, then layer the original digital copy under it, and then I would erase everything from that digital layer except the background to help it give more of a grainy, realistic look. So while working on digitizing this, I had to look for a publisher, so I simply did the galaxy brain move of googling publishers and seeing where that would take me. Originally I landed on Pimento Publishing, but they were very hands-on in their approach of what my comic should be, therefore I chose not to go with them. Around the time I almost finished redrawing everything, I found a publisher that was a lot more of what I was looking for. T. Wayne would give me a lot more creative control of my comic, which was all I needed to hear. However, I don't know if this is exclusive to indie publishers, but I've observed from the 2 publishers I've interacted with that it costs money to publish a book. Unfortunately, if you know me IRL, then you'd know that around this time, I wasn't doing so hot financially. I was going through a bit of financial issues back at home and having to deal with both my car getting destroyed and needing to buy a new car before the end of summer, as well as a few other things. Thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to buy a new car a week prior to this, after consecutive 44+ hour work weeks and simply just saving, but that also left me with literally no money. And that was the second time within a week I had talked something down from $500 to $300. I was all the way towards finishing my comic when I thought to myself, this book looks like crap. So I asked if they could ink it for me, and oh my. You know, maybe the first page ain't look so bad after all. And all of this is summarized in the back page of my comic book, but screw y'all, if y'all want to read that, buy the comic. Speaking of that, let me actually try and sell you on the comic now. Logic is a story about two brothers who, after their mom receives a pay cut, they have to start going from a Christian school to a normal school. That is my one sentence pitch for the series, but overall, it's a lot deeper than that. These kids are actually starting their middle school years at this new school, so they literally know nobody. The story is very heavily based on events from my life, although I will admit they are very exaggerated. However, at its core, I feel like this story is about not forgetting where you came from while also trying to figure out who you are. I'm not gonna lie, most of these stories came from first-hand experience. Like, these kids are in middle school, they don't know who they are yet. And it's especially tough when it feels like their identities are being pulled in two different directions. I'm gonna try my best to find a way to make chapter 1 free to read, so that way if you read it and you enjoy it, you can just feel free to purchase the rest of the book. And if I do find a way to do it in time, check the description of this video. I'll probably update the description when I do find a way to do that, but yeah. Other than that, I will say there are more of these coming. Currently, I have 2.5 of these ready for release. I just gotta ink over them. So if for some reason you enjoy reading this, I'll keep y'all updated on the progress of the next one and the next one and the next one. Anyways, I genuinely thank y'all for sticking with me throughout this whole process. It's not been rough to multitask all this. Plus, with life being life, this is really something that only God could have accomplished. And he did. He worked it through me to make this, so yeah, thank you, buddy. But other than that, I'm gonna just let y'all go now. You know how it goes. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, just subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch y'all later.